in one video today, guys, we're going to show you completely how to do a masonry foundation addition. We're going to show you how step by step all the way to the end. Stick with us to the very end and you'll see the before and after, and you'll learn every detail so you can do it on your very own. As you can see, the first step is digging your trench. Now, we come back the next day after the trench is dug, and it's time to put in our wire and our rebar. We must muck out the trench in its entirety, get our rebar in. We have inspection tomorrow, so it will dry out overnight. We have our hammer drill. We're drilling in for our 1/2-inch rebar as per the plans. We step down to the existing footing, tie in with our rebar. We need a double rebar on some housing chairs. We must overlap the rebar by at least 2 feet and wrap the corners and go all the way around and epoxy and rebar into the other foundation on the other side. So we're creating essentially a giant U shape, actually an L shape for this particular job. As you can see, we're drilling in the other side now, and we're going to be tying the rods in here as well. We use a bar to bend our rods. We slide them in and we bend them. It makes it much easier on our backs, much easier to bend, and we put them in the hole, and we use wire ties to tie them and fasten them to the chairs so they're completely ready for inspection. We're also going to be adding our pins. We pin our footings and we mark our footings so we have our heights for once the concrete comes, we know exactly how to pour them. We're also going to be doing vertical upright bars every 3 foot. They're going to be bent to the L shape down to the rods in the footing. We shoot our heights so we know exactly where we want to finish because we want to match the floor on the inside. We get our laser out, we shoot our heights. We are well below the 3 foot. You must be 3 foot below grade when you're pouring your concrete footings. We are below that. We're about 40 inches below grade, 44 in some spots. We're going to be pouring about 2 foot of concrete all the way throughout the entirety of this trench. So it's less block we have to lay, and it's also just easier for us, less bending we have to do. You might as well. There's no harm in doing it. Now I'm taking my string lines. So you're going to use your string lines for your block, and we're going to be using them for our footing because I need to mark centers on the footing so I know exactly where to put those rods that I'm bending and putting every 3 foot. You must check plumb level and square on all of your lines. You want to square it off to the house. Your footing is square. Now I have a very tight and narrow road. They're doing road work on the school up above, and it's a narrow shared driveway. So because this is the case, I must use 2 small short load concrete trucks. We use short load for everything, so it's not a big deal, but they only handle 4 yards, and I have to pour 8 yards for this particular footing. So I ordered 2 trucks. I spaced them about a half hour apart, as I know I'm going to have to get some heavy labor here to be wheelbarrowing. We are going to have 6 guys that are going to be wheeling, and I'm going to be spreading the entirety of the footing. Going to be checking level, going to have my laser out, check level as I go. Going to be using my rake, tamping it down, and I'm also going to be adding my bars, my vertical bars as I go. My vertical bars will be tying the block to the footing. As you can see, the second truck is here. We're pouring, we're filling, we're measuring down. We're putting those bars in that we told you about. We're getting it perfectly flat so that I can lay block, but I want it roughed up so it will be able to adhere the cement to it when I lay my block. Now that it's set over the weekend, we are back. We use our square lines laid out exactly where the blocks are going to go. We got 2.5 cubes of block delivered. We hand walk them down. It's time to mix. For our mix, we use type M masonry mortar, sand, and water. We go 10 shovels of sand for a half bag of type M mortar, and then we add about 5/8 of a bucket. We mix it until we're happy with it. We don't want it like soup. We want it tacky. We want it just like that. It's time to spread. When laying our block, we always go with the corners, with the corners first, and we lay onwards and upwards. So we lay the outmost corner, then we lay the corners next to the house for this particular build, and we go all the way up to the top with those corners. So you're going to want to lay 5 or 4 or 3 at the bottom. Stack it up 3, 2, 1, so you can lay one on the top. You can shoot your height. Make sure it's identical to the height you want to pour so that you can put your bracing to run your floor joists across and carry it through. Then I go to the next corner, onwards, upwards. I build the same thing. When I'm going into the existing wall, I'm tying in with a 1/2-inch rebar every other course. I drill, I put the rebar, I tie in with epoxy, and then I put the block over top. Now I put my vent. My vent is centered from where the door opening is going to be to the end of the wall. Now I come back and I lay yet my last corner. I go up to the exact height. I take my joiner, I do the inside of these joints, even though this is a crawl space and will ultimately never be seen. I do it anyway, because why not practice professionalism always? Now that my corners are built, the hard work is out of the way, one wall is done, I put my dogs on. My dogs hold the line and span from block to block, so I can just run the block in between using string lines, so I know it's exactly perfect. I don't have to sit there with a level on every single block. So I sit here and I run, I continue onwards and upwards. I leave a little crevice out so I can get the wheelbarrow in. Once I get everything in, I can put that block on, I tie everything in, and it's time to turn our attention to foundation bolts. As you can see, the foundation bolts are going to be every 3 foot as per this plan. As you can see, we're filling everywhere those rebars were vertically. I fill completely solid. I put my bars. I'm going to have 1 2x6 plate. I have 16-inch J-bolts that are 5/8 of an inch in diameter. So I must be within 12 inches of a corner, as shown here, always within 12 inches of any corner or any end, or it must be right next to a vent on either side of it. So I fill entirely solid with grout all the way to the bottom of the block. Then I set my J-bolt so I measure in 2 3/4 inches because it's a 5.5 inch wide board, and I stick it up about 2 1/4 inches so there's some thread to fasten down to. Again, every 3 foot I do the same thing. But for this, I'm going to be filling the entirety of every block here. It's going to be a lot of concrete I have to mix up and do it, but it's not to worry. It will add nothing but strength to this wall and help reinforce it completely. Now that all my J-bolts are in, here's just showing you completely filling what it looks like from an overhead view, how I measure in from the outside, up from the top. I'm almost to the end of the wall. Now it's completely finished. Now I'm going to turn my attention to showing you guys how to parge coat. For parge coating, I always like to do 2 coats. I use type M masonry mortar, sand, water, and acrylic fortifier. The acrylic fortifier helps with adhesion. My first coat is going to be my scratch coat. On my first coat, I'm also going to be putting my cove on. The cove is code. You want it so water wicks away from the foundation. It can run down the wall and wick away. The cove is what I'm doing. I'm showing you here. So this is my first coat of my plaster. I go a little heavy on this parge coat. I want this one to be thicker. I want it to be beefy and have some meat to it, so it will not crack over time. It's also going to have another coat over top, so after I get it plastered, I'm going to go back over it with a scratcher, a scraper, a scarfer, whatever you want to call it. It's going to be scratching it so that it helps my next coat adhere to it. It's just going to help it stick better, and why not? That's exactly what we want. But when scratching, I go just below grade. I don't want to go too much below grade because I don't put my second coat all the way to the bottom of the cove. I just go what's going to be below grade, slightly and above. It's a finish coat. It's a sponge float finish. It's just what's going to be seen. Now, if my slab on the inside wasn't going to be higher than the grade on the outside, I would need tar or foundation coating. But because my slab is going to be higher than the grade on the outside, I do not need this. It wouldn't make any sense. Now, here you can see I'm scratching, as I told you, the entirety of this. I come back the following day and it's time to put on coat number 2. I want to put this as flat and as smoothly as completely possible because I'm going to be going back and I'm going to be sponge float finishing this, and I want it to look clean and pristine and nice and neat once it's done. As you can see, I am using my same mix. I'm just using my finished trowel, putting it on, floating it out using the sponge. Yes, it's a rough finish, but it looks quite nice when it's done. This addition is also going to be featuring a parge coat / plastering going around the entirety of the outside, so this will end up tying in and making it all look the same. If they paint any of that stucco, they can paint this too and it will all match. Now that this is going to be done, we're going to be turning our attention to some of the other things that have to be done on the project. You're going to be able to backfill once you get your slab inspection, and once you get your backfill inspection and your plate inspection. Once you get those inspections and you pass, you can fly through the framing. The framing goes very quick. You can get your sheeting inspection, and then things really start to become off to the races from there. This was framed and sheeted before we got to pour the floor, so we had to go in and bucket it in, and pour through. We had to get our 10 mil plastic down. We had to pour through the floorboards, through the floor joists, We had to hand mix about 3 yards of concrete and pour this rat slab after we got our vapor barrier, which was the 10 mil plastic, down underneath. underneath. Now, it doesn't have to have a perfect finish. We just use a magnesium float, completely float it out, trowel it out so there's no humps, bumps, or lumps, as you guys are well aware of by now. But I don't really need to go over it with the finish trowel. It's very minimum height underneath there. No one's really going to be crawling under there. It's just going to be some minor storage that can come through from the other side. As you can see, the joists are run all the way in. They can begin the framing. This is completely an open space. Now, it is hundreds and hundreds of buckets have walked in here today. This is not the ideal way to do it. Usually you pour it before it's framed, but it doesn't always work out the way you want it to. So construction is mainly problem solving. Do whatever you got to do to get the job done, and to get the job done right. You can't have anything held up for you. So you come in and do whatever's asked of you when it's asked, and that's about it. So we're able to get that in. You're going to come back to the outside. You clean up absolutely everything, make it look like you were never there, because it can make a big mess when you're mixing up that much concrete. But as you can see, we got it down, we got it done, we got everything cleaned up, making it look like we're never here. There's going to be a dumpster. It's going to be hauling all the way all that debris. Here is the finished look. The slab always dries white once it's complete. They can begin to put the floorboards now. They were waiting for us to have that poured so they could do that. We're going to take a step back. We're going to be showing you the outside of the house now, so you can see the updated look, how it comes along. Again, the masonry is where it starts. Everything is opened up. It's wide on the inside, and here is the outside that's all ready for the stucco. The windows are in, the doors are in, and this is really taking off. This will be done in about a month's time. Thanks for watching.